So when you're deciding which postulate you're going to use, you need to figure out what you have. So one of the things to note about this is that you have to have actually three things. And if you look at the list of postulates on the card, they each side, 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 three things, side, angle, side, three things, angle, side, angle, three things, and angle, angle, side, three things. So you have to have three sides or angles, and they have to be in the correct arrangement for this to work. So if they aren't actually already marked, you have to figure out, can I mark them? So there are some things you look for while you're doing that, and it could be that in your picture you have some vertical angles. It could be that you have shared sides. We know vertical angles are congruent. So that could always help you out. A shared side means that if it's shared, it's on both triangles, and since it's the same side, we know that we would have two congruent sides. You also have parallel lines. Parallel lines can provide all sorts of congruence relationships with angles, like alternate interior, etc. So once you have them marked, you decide which postulate do I have. So we're going to go through and do that with these different triangles. There are 6 sets below. So we're going to look at the triangles and see what's actually there. And then we're going to see if we can figure out what else we might need. So we'll use something from up above, vertical angle, shared sides, some relationship given by parallel lines to actually make that decision. Then you have to pay attention to the order of the sides and the angles to actually write your congruent statement. So the very first one, example A, all it gave us were 2 parallel lines. So I know that I have parallel lines, and then I could say, hey, this is cut by a transversal. So if that's true, then I know this angle has to be congruent to this angle because they're alternate interior angles. I have another set of congruent angles that I can mark from parallel lines. This angle must be congruent to this angle because, again, if I have 2 parallel lines cut by a transversal, these 2 angles are alternate interior angles. Then if you actually look at this angle right here, it must be congruent to that angle right there because they are vertical angles. So I do have 3 things. I have angle, angle, and angle, matching with angle, angle, and angle. But if I look at my cards, angle, angle, angle isn't listed, and I don't actually have any side measurements at all for that picture. So I cannot say that those triangles are congruent. I know they're similar, and angle, angle, angle is a postulate for similarity, and they could be congruent. I just don't actually know that they're congruent. So we're going to say, do I know it's congruent? No. Is it one of those 4 postulates? No. But it is angle, angle, angle. So I'm going to write that in, and I know that they're similar, but we're not going to say they're congruent. They could be, but they don't have to be. Okay, example B. So in this case, they actually gave me 2 parallel sides, and they gave me some congruent sides. So what I can do again is actually look to see what else I have. So I could use the vertical angles right here. So this angle must be equal to that angle. So now if I look, I have a side and an angle. I don't actually know anything about these 2 sides, but I can write a statement about this angle over here. So if I choose to write something about this angle over here, I would say this angle is congruent to this angle because I have 2 parallel lines cut by a transversal, and these are alternate interior angles. Now if I look at what I have angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle, and if I look at my card, there is angle, side, angle. Those 2 triangles are congruent. Now that wasn't the only option. That's the option I'm using right here, because what I also could have done is actually looked at this set of alternate interior angles because I have parallel lines cut by this transversal. So I could have come up with a different postulate for that. I think I could have had an angle, angle, side, but I'm going to actually stick with this one, which is angle, side, angle. So yes, they are congruent, and I have angle, side, angle. So example C, moving down to C. In this case, I want to know, are they congruent? And if I look, I've got 2 sets of congruent sides. SV is congruent to UV. RV is congruent to TV. And then wouldn't it be great, looking at this, since I have two sides, that I had a third side or an included angle. So I look at my picture, and I do actually have an included angle. It's the angle that connects the two sides that I have that are congruent, and those are vertical angles. Because those are vertical angles, I know that they are congruent. And if you take a look now, I have side, angle, side, side, angle, side. So are they congruent? Yes. My postulate would be side, angle, side. And then I have to be very careful about matching parts. So triangle RSV, so it started with RS, this side right here, so it's the line connecting, so it's this line, but I have to get the order right. Since it started with R and went to S, R is touching the one with the 2 marks, so I have to do T to U. And then the third side is V. So hopefully that makes sense. But again, you might have some choices in which postulate. You just decide which one you think you can get and why you might get it, and then you'll have to be able to justify your answers later. For example, D. If I look right now, I don't have any parallel sides, anything like that, but I do have vertical angles again. So I'm going to mark my vertical angles. So this angle is congruent to this angle. So now I take a look, and I actually have 3 different things. I have an angle, a side, and an angle. And the side is included between the 2 angles. So if I look at my card, the third one down is angle, side, angle. The side is included between the 2 angles. So, are they congruent? Yes. And then my postulate would be angle, side, angle. And then I'm going to match up corresponding parts. So triangle KLO, I look at KL. KL is this side right here. So the one that matches it will be NL. And then if I look at LO, I'm starting at this angle and going to the other one. So this is the included side starting at this angle. Then I'm going to go LM. And I have a congruent statement. For example, E. I look at what I have. They gave me 2 sets of congruent sides, but they also gave me a shared side. OQ is on both triangles, so I know that OQ is congruent to itself. So what I have are 3 sets of congruent sides, and if I take a look at the very first postulate, side, 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 is 3 sets of congruent sides. So are they congruent? Yes. And my postulate will be side, side, side. Then I just have to name corresponding parts. So if I look at side NO, that matches with PO. Then OQ will still match with OQ. It is the same side. So I have triangle NOQ. NOQ will match with POQ. The very last example here, example F. If I look at this, I can see that I have a shared side again. So I'm going to mark the shared side. Then I have another set of congruent sides, and I have an angle out here. So this angle is not included. So what I'm going to look at is my card, and I have 2 sets of side and 1 angle. So if I look at this, 2 sides in 1 angle, the only thing I see here is 2 sides and 1 angle, but it's an included angle. So I come back up here and I look at it again and I say, is that congruent or is it not congruent? So right now it looks like it's side, side, angle, but is that enough? And it's not one of our postulates. So I'm going to say no, it is not congruent. So we're not going to have a congruent statement. And the side, side, angle postulate doesn't work because there's generally more than one conclusion possible for that. So while you will sometimes get congruent triangles, you aren't actually guaranteed congruent triangles. So you definitely want to watch your card, and your choices are side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, and angle, angle, side. And that's all you have.